Congresswoman from California, Congressman Diane Watson.
Mr. Paulson, I want to thank you for being here and your patience. A few minutes ago, we talked about an institution that you thought would be able to deal with regulatory activities. How do you feel about the regulatory proposals that have been put forth by President Obama and Congress?
That's a pretty broad, general question.
Have you been following them?
I would say I made, when I was Secretary of the Treasury, I put forward a number of regulatory proposals, put forward a regulatory blueprint. And there are a number of things that the administration has put forward that I am very, very pleased about. The wind-down authorities for non-banking institutions, the idea that there will be a macro stability regulator, the idea that there be a consolidation of banking regulators. So I think there's some very positive ideas that have been put forward.
Would you please, if we send you the exact questions, would you put your responses in writing so I can say that when we form this new regulatory system, these are some of the points that we ought to consider? We're trying to unscramble eggs that are really rotten at this point, and we must move forward and correct this system. It's impacting on not only the United States, but the rest of the world too. We got to get it right. And I cannot be convinced that this wasn't seen back a year ago, the collapse. But in trying to move on, I want to reiterate what has happened on Tuesday. It was reported that just 1 month after repaying their $10 billion in aid, Goldman Sachs would be posting a second quarter net profit of $3.44 billion. I'm curious to hear your perspective on their success despite the recession, given your 26 years of experience at Goldman Sachs and the unique role former Goldman employees have played in economic policy, considering that the last two chairmen of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the head of the World Bank, and the head of the New York Stock Exchange, and the former assistant secretary at Treasury responsible for TARP, Neil Kashkari, were all former Goldman Sachs employees. And why do you believe Goldman Sachs has been able to bring in such profits despite the current economic conditions?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you. I have not worked at Goldman Sachs in 3 years, so I can't explain what they're doing that's working. But I can say I take some comfort, and I think all of you should, that there are a number of financial institutions that are more profitable today, and it looks increasingly like the government will be paid back with profits on a number of these plans. And in terms of your request to me to give you something in writing, I'll work with you on that. I don't have a staff like I used to, and I have a lot of requests.
No, you can handwrite them. I do have a staff, and we'll send you in writing what we would like to ask and what you think should be proposed. You can write it in hand. You can do pencil to paper. We'll be.
Well, I'll do my best to work with you on it. Thank you.
All right, I appreciate that. And do you think that Goldman Sachs has benefited from the economic crisis and the dissolution of some of their strongest competitors, such as Lehman Brothers?
I don't know what is the source of the profits, and I've got no basis to speculate on it.
Okay. How was the determination made that institutions such as Bear Stearns, AIG, and Merrill Lynch should be saved either through direct assistance or acquisition, while Lehman Brothers would be allowed to fail. I'm not quite clear, and I know you've addressed it.
Yeah, I did, and I will just say to you, we did not have the legal powers, we believe, to do something in the Lehman Brothers case. We did not have the TARP to put capital in, and we did not have a buyer as we did in the case of Bear Stearns. And so we were faced with sort of an unfortunate set of circumstances.
And I will conclude. I see the red light, Mr. Chairman, but I just want to say, if we have missed our oversight responsibilities, I need to know what you consider in writing, and we'll put that in our letter to you, what you consider government could do more of. I do know that we did not, this committee under the former administration did not do the kind of oversight. Maybe we were asleep at the wheel, or maybe we looked the other way. But I'd like to hear from you what government could do so we don't get in this situation again, and I think really it's worse than the Depression of the 30s. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the extra
Thank you very much. Thank the gentleman from California. I now yield to Mr. Garrett of New Jersey.